The afternoon sky above UA High School was supposed to be calm. Training fields stretched wide beneath the bright blue horizon. Students of Class 1A were scattered across the grounds, the sounds of combat practice echoing through the air. Explosions cracked like thunder as Katsuki Bakugo launched himself across the field. Sheets of ice formed instantly as Shoto Todoroki countered with perfect precision. And nearby, scribbling notes even during training, Izuku Midoriya watched everything closely. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then, the sky broke. At first it was subtle, a ripple in the clouds, a distortion so faint that most people wouldn't notice. But Midoriya did. His eyes lifted toward the sky as the sunlight dimmed slightly, as if something massive had passed in front of it. "Did you guys see that?" he muttered. Bakugo landed beside him with a sharp blast from his palms. "See what, nerd?" Midoriya pointed upward. Above them, the clouds were beginning to twist. Not like a natural storm. The air itself seemed to spiral, forming a strange vortex high in the atmosphere. Dark metallic reflections flickered inside the clouds, like fragments of steel tumbling through a whirlpool in the sky. Students across the training ground slowly stopped fighting. Even Bakugo frowned. What the hell? High above the campus, the storm continued growing. Meanwhile, inside the UA control center, alarms suddenly erupted. Satellite feeds flashed across large monitors as teachers rushed toward the screens. "Energy distortion detected," one technician reported. Another voice spoke urgently. "This isn't weather." On the main display, the swirling clouds revealed something even stranger. Objects were falling from the storm. Small pieces of metal, fragments of unknown machinery, and they were burning through the atmosphere. Standing at the center of the room, Shota Aizawa, known to students as Eraserhead, stared at the screen with tired eyes that had suddenly become very alert. "This isn't a villain quirk," he said quietly. Principal Nezu leaned forward, analyzing the incoming data. No known quirk generates that kind of energy signature. Another teacher spoke nervously. Could it be experimental support technology? Nezu slowly shook his head. If it is, it's beyond anything currently developed on Earth. Outside, the wind had begun to pick up. Students gathered together, staring upward as the vortex expanded. Lightning crackled inside the storm, but the bolts were strange. Blue. Sharp. Almost mechanical. Midoriya's mind was racing. Something about this felt wrong. Not just unusual. Wrong. The fragments falling from the sky weren't random debris. Even from this distance, he could tell they had structure. Panels, joints, metallic frames. Machine parts. Bakugo clicked his tongue. If some villain is dropping scrap metal on us, they picked the worst place to try it. But Todoroki remained silent, eyes fixed on the clouds. No. His voice was calm, but serious. That's not debris. More fragments tore through the sky, burning bright like shooting stars. And then something larger appeared. At first, it looked like a shadow, a dark silhouette hidden deep inside the swirling storm. But slowly, the shape became clearer, massive, angular, artificial. Midoriya felt his heartbeat quicken. "That's not falling," he whispered. The object wasn't crashing. It was descending. Controlled. Deliberate. The clouds twisted violently as the enormous structure pushed through the vortex. Metal plating gleamed beneath flashes of blue lightning. The shape looked like a colossal flying fortress. Across the training field, silence fell over the students. Even Bakugo stopped speaking. Because whatever that thing was, it was bigger than anything they had ever seen. High above them, engines roared to life inside the storm. But no one on the ground could hear the quiet laughter echoing from within the massive machine. Deep inside the descending fortress, surrounded by glowing control panels and endless streams of data, a man leaned back in a large cockpit chair. Round glasses reflected the light of holographic displays. Thick mustache, red military coat, and an expression of absolute satisfaction. This was Dr. Eggman. His machines were already scanning the planet below. Billions of life forms. Millions with unusual genetic energy signatures. Eggman's fingers tapped rapidly across the control console as data poured across the screen. Power readings. Biological mutations. Superhuman abilities. His grin widened. Fascinating. He zoomed the scanners toward the training field below. Multiple individuals with powerful energy readings. One in particular stood out. A green-haired boy. Eggman chuckled softly. An entire world filled with natural superpowers. He leaned forward, eyes glowing with excitement. Oh, this is going to be fun. Outside the fortress, the massive machine finally broke through the storm clouds completely. The vortex above UA roared violently as the gigantic metal structure slowly descended into view. Students stared upward in shock. Teachers rushed outside. Emergency sirens began echoing across campus. No one knew what this thing was. No one knew where it came from. But everyone could feel the same chilling realization. Something had arrived. Something powerful. Something unknown. High inside the cockpit, Eggman looked down at the Hero Academy below and smiled. So this, he said quietly, is the world of heroes. The fortress engines flared brighter. And far below, small metallic pods began detaching from the underside of the machine. Dozens of them, falling rapidly toward the city. The colossal machine hovered silently over the outskirts of Musutafu, its shadow stretching across the city like an omen. From below, the streets seemed impossibly small, the skyscrapers mere toys compared to the towering fortress suspended in the sky. The metallic hum of engines filled the air, a sound that vibrated through every bone in the city. People stopped in their tracks, staring upward, their expressions frozen somewhere between awe and terror. Inside the cockpit, surrounded by a tangle of screens, sensors, and flashing lights, a man leaned back in his chair. Thick glasses caught the light of the holographic displays, reflecting streams of data that scrolled faster than any human eye could track. The room was cluttered, yet meticulously organized. Each panel, each lever, each blinking console was part of a single, meticulous plan. Dr. Eggman, the genius, the inventor, the self-proclaimed master of machines, smiled faintly as his scanners swept across the city. The readings were unlike anything he had ever seen before. Humans with abilities, energy signatures far beyond the limits of ordinary science. Quirks. He tapped a few keys, and the machine zoomed in on isolated individuals. One boy, green-haired, intense, and already showing signs of calculated strategy in his movements, appeared on the main display. Eggman's grin widened. Fascinating, he murmured, voice low and deliberate. Entire world of powered humans. Untapped potential. Weapons waiting to be refined. Outside, chaos was just beginning to stir. Pro-heroes, alerted to the appearance of the enormous hovering machine, mobilized. Their communications crackled through radio static, voices urgent and tense. UA students, Evacuate the area immediately, shouted a voice. Eraserhead, calm but commanding. Pro heroes, intercept. Don't let anything leave that fortress. But Eggman didn't move. He didn't need to. His machines, already hidden among the city streets, scuttled through the shadows, collecting data on unsuspecting civilians. Cameras, sensors, and drones moved silently, measuring strength, agility, and energy output. Each quirk was cataloged, analyzed, and stored for future experimentation. From the perspective of the heroes below, the machine was a paradox. It wasn't attacking yet. It wasn't speaking, but the presence of this technological giant alone was enough to freeze the heart of even the most seasoned pro. Midoriya, standing alongside Todoroki and Bakugo, stared upward. "They're scanning us," Midoriya whispered, barely audible. His voice carried a mixture of awe and fear. That machine, it's observing everything. Our quirks, our abilities, our strategies. Bakugo's fists sparked with energy as he clenched them. Shh. You're telling me some oversized flying metal crap is studying us? What the hell is this guy planning? Todoroki, calm as ever, tilted his head slightly. It's not just studying. It's analyzing. This isn't a random attack. This is calculated. Inside the fortress, Eggman leaned forward, eyes gleaming. The scanners isolated a small cluster of pro heroes approaching from below. Their quirks were powerful, but predictable. Patterns easily cataloged and anticipated. He tapped a command on the console. Small drones detached from the underside of the fortress, invisible until they zipped through the air with precision, gathering more samples of energy and movement. "Such efficiency," Eggman murmured. "This world doesn't understand the value of order, of proper control. They're dangerous, yes, but they are predictable. And that predictability," he paused, savoring the thought, "is a weakness." The city below was alive with confusion. Citizens evacuated en masse, while emergency broadcasts flashed on every screen, warning of the massive, unidentified flying object above. Pro heroes attempted to organize defenses, but the sheer scale of Eggman's machine made conventional tactics feel futile. And then, as if sensing their hesitation, Eggman spoke into a microphone, his voice booming across the city like rolling thunder. "People of this world," he said, calm, commanding, almost theatrical. "Your abilities are impressive, fascinating, utterly fascinating. But imagine what could happen if those abilities were harnessed. Controlled. Perfected." Midoriya's eyes widened. "Harnessed? Controlled? What does he mean by that?" Bakugo growled, jaw tightening. "Doesn't matter. Whatever he's planning, we stop it. Right now." Eggman's grin widened as the scanners locked on each individual's quirks. He tapped a key, and the fortress lights pulsed, sending out a low hum that resonated with the energy readings of the humans below. He leaned back, eyes gleaming with a dangerous kind of satisfaction. "These humans are born with superpowers," he whispered, almost to himself. "Imagine what happens when I control them." A pause filled the cockpit. Eggman's fingers hovered over the console, ready to set the first phase of his plan in motion. Outside, the city was unaware of the looming catastrophe, but the heroes could feel it. A sense of wrongness, a tension that gripped their muscles and made every instinct scream. And in that moment, the fortress shifted. Rotors spun, mechanical arms extended. Hidden panels slid open. The first of Eggman's devices, small, sleek, and unnervingly quiet, slid into the streets below, beginning the silent process of quirk collection. Down on the ground, Midoriya looked at his friends. We need to figure out what he's doing before it's too late. But even as he spoke, a chill ran down his spine. Because Eggman wasn't just observing. He was preparing, calculating. And already the world of heroes had become the greatest experiment Eggman had ever imagined. Above them, the fortress loomed. Inside, Eggman's laughter echoed softly. Let's see what your world is truly capable of. And somewhere deep within the machinery, sensors began locking on to their most powerful targets. The city of Hoko suddenly erupted in alarm. Sirens screamed across the streets, their wailing cutting through the morning air as citizens fled in all directions. Windows rattled and streetlights flickered, shadows dancing across crumbling walls. At first, people assumed it was a normal villain attack. A gang trying to terrorize the city, the kind pro-heroes had grown used to confronting, but nothing could have prepared them for what emerged. From the alleys and rooftops, metallic figures began to appear. Sleek, angular machines, each the height of a man yet impossibly fast, moved with coordinated precision. Their surfaces shimmered like polished steel, reflecting the city's chaos in fractured shards. Their eyes, small, red, and glowing, scanned every movement, calculating threats, anticipating responses. Eraserhead was first on the scene. Landing with a thud that sent debris flying, he immediately assessed the situation. Everyone, fall back. These aren't normal combatants. His voice was calm, but the tension in it betrayed the gravity of the situation. Midoriya, Bakugo, and a handful of pro-heroes landed beside him, all taking in the scene with widening eyes. What the hell are these things? Bakugo shouted, blasting a nearby machine with his explosive quirk. The robot moved with impossible speed, deflecting the attack with a metallic shield, spinning and advancing toward him without hesitation. They're not quirk-powered, Eraserhead said grimly, observing how his erasure quirk had no effect. His eyes narrowed. They're autonomous. They're not organic. Nothing I can disable here. Midoriya's heart pounded in his chest. He activated One for All, ready to launch a full-strength punch, but paused mid-strike. The machines weren't reacting like villains. They weren't scared. They weren't hesitant. Every attack he made was anticipated and countered with perfect timing, almost as if the robots were learning from him in real time. The first egg pawn lunged at Todoroki, who barely froze the metal advance with a wall of ice. The robot adapted instantly, recalibrating its trajectory and smashing through his defenses with a calculated strike that splintered his ice shield. A second machine followed, flanking him from the opposite side. Todoroki's eyes widened. They're learning. Every move we make. Meanwhile, across the city, ordinary citizens screamed as the robots began hurting them, not in mindless destruction, but with precision, almost as though they were studying patterns of human behavior. Drones lifted into the air, their sensors blinking, scanning everyone in sight. Back in the cockpit of the hovering fortress, Eggman reclined, hands steepled. His eyes gleamed behind his thick glasses. Your world relies too much on powers, he said, voice smooth and deliberate. Mine relies on technology. He pressed a few buttons, and more egg pawns detached from hidden compartments within the fortress, deploying in waves across the city. Each one moved with singular purpose, attacking with modular weapons, shields, and unerring accuracy. They didn't tire. They didn't hesitate. And they were learning faster than anyone could anticipate. Midoriya's mind raced. These aren't just machines. They're evolving. They're adapting to our quirks. His voice rose with a mix of awe and dread. How is that even possible? Eraserhead's brow furrowed. He leapt between civilians and machines, trying to shield the fleeing crowd. "Focus on evacuation," he barked. "Contain the damage. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary." But even he knew the warning might be too late. The egg pawns weren't just another wave of villainous chaos. They were a new class of threat, something beyond anything the world of heroes had ever faced. A nearby explosion threw Bakugo back, but he rolled to his feet, glaring at the advancing robots. "Shh, no matter what you are, I'll blast every last one of you." He fired, but the robot simply adjusted its shield midair, absorbing the impact, and countered with a mechanical precision strike that sent him skidding across the asphalt. Todoroki's ice walls now became a desperate barrier rather than a strategic defense. "We can't keep this up. Every attack we make, they're already one step ahead." From the safety of his hidden base within the fortress, Eggman watched, fingers dancing over his controls. "Curious," he mused, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "They rely on quirks, predictable patterns of behavior. But I've created a system that adapts faster than their powers can react. This is going to be perfect." The egg pawns began working together, herding civilians and heroes alike into traps, coordinating their attacks as if following an invisible conductor. Each move of the heroes only gave Eggman more data, more insights into their strengths and weaknesses. Midoriya gritted his teeth, clenching his fists as he surveyed the battlefield. These machines, they're not just attacking, they're learning. They're getting smarter. Eraserhead's voice cut through the chaos. "Then we adapt faster. We fight smarter. But we need a strategy, or this city, and everyone in it, won't make it." Above them, the fortress engines thrummed, sending down a low, resonating hum. Inside, Eggman's laughter echoed softly, confident, cold, and unnervingly calm. "Your world is fascinating," he whispered, "and soon it will belong to my machines." As the robots advanced, shifting and adapting with terrifying precision, a single thought struck all the heroes at once. This wasn't just a villain invasion. It was a calculated war, and they had only just entered the battlefield. From the shadows of the fortress, Eggman pressed another control. New egg pawns emerged, faster, stronger, and smarter than the first. And at that moment, the city below realized the truth. Nothing about this attack was random. It was the beginning of something far, far bigger. The streets of Hoko were a war zone. Smoke curled from shattered windows. Debris littered the roads, and the distant wail of sirens blended with the relentless hum of advancing metal. Class 1A had been deployed under the supervision of pro-heroes, and the students landed with a mixture of determination and apprehension. Midoriya's eyes scanned the battlefield, heart pounding. These robots, they're not just strong, they're analyzing us. Every move we make, every quirk we use, they're learning. His notebook was already out, scribbling notes mid-fight, trying to detect patterns. He moved like a conductor in a symphony of chaos, predicting, calculating, reacting. Bakugo, of course, had no patience for analysis. He leapt forward, explosives blazing. "I don't care what they learn. I'll blow them to scrap." Each detonation rocked the pavement, sending chunks of asphalt flying. One robot absorbed the blast, its outer plating whirring and shifting, as if reinforced by Bakugo's own attack. It responded immediately, firing a concentrated pulse that replicated the exact pattern of his explosions. "Wait, what?" Bakugo shouted, stepping back. His eyes widened. "It's copying me. My own quirk." Todoroki's icy breath cut through the air as he created shields and barriers. trying to control the flow of the battle. Yet even his precision was challenged. The egg pawns adapted mid-strike, learning to anticipate the angle, the speed, the timing of his flames and ice. Every attack became slightly less effective, every defense slightly less secure. From above, a swarm of drones hovered silently, streaming data back to Eggman. In the cockpit of his fortress, he leaned forward with a gleam in his eye. Yes, yes, observe, adapt, calculate. His fingers flew over the controls. Your quirks are fascinating, but they're just another data set. Every hero is a potential weapon under the right guidance. Back on the streets, Class 1A struggled to maintain coordination. Jiro's sonic attacks clashed with the precise countermeasures of the robots, the sound bouncing off reinforced steel plating. Suro's tape entangled one robot, only for it to break free in seconds, recalibrating to avoid capture. Midoriya jumped from debris to debris, dodging an incoming swarm while calling out instructions. Everyone, don't just attack. Watch for patterns. Observe what they adapt to, then change strategy. Bakugo growled in frustration. Patterns? Patterns don't punch things in the face. He fired another barrage, but a robot mirrored his trajectory almost instantly, unleashing explosions in perfect synchronization with his own, effectively neutralizing his assault. A brief lull fell over the battlefield as the students and heroes realized the truth. These machines weren't mindless. They weren't acting on instinct. They were actively learning, using their opponent's quirks against them, anticipating tactics, evolving mid-battle. Eraserhead, Midoriya shouted, ducking behind a toppled lamppost. Even our combined quirks aren't enough. They're adapting faster than we can react. Eraserhead's eyes narrowed, jaw set. Then we need to fight smarter. Use misdirection. Don't be predictable. He erased a swarm of drones temporarily, giving civilians a brief window to escape, but the egg pawns continued their relentless advance, now demonstrating tactics eerily similar to coordinated military units. From the shadows of the fortress, Eggman leaned back with satisfaction. Exactly as expected. Observe and replicate. Your world's reliance on quirks is quaint. You may be heroes, but under my systems, you are predictable. One egg pawn suddenly separated from its formation, launching a strike directly at Bakugo, but in perfect imitation of his own explosive style. Midoriya gasped as the blast mirrored Bakugo's quirk almost identically, the air crackling with deadly precision. They're copying us. Every attack we make becomes their attack. Bakugo froze, expression tight with rage and disbelief. No way. They can't. Todoroki tightened his ice shields, scanning rapidly. They're analyzing not just quirk effects, but quirk patterns, habits, tendencies. Everything we do is being weaponized against us. The students realized that brute force alone would not win this battle. Their creativity, their unpredictability, their ability to adapt on the fly. It was the only advantage they had left. Midoriya's mind raced. If we fight like usual, we'll lose. But if we change, if we force them to constantly adapt, maybe we can turn this around. Eggman's voice crackled across the battlefield, filtered through the fortress speakers. Calm, icy, inescapable. Your quirks are impressive, but so very limited. I control technology. I control the battlefield, and I am learning faster than you ever could. The students looked at one another, the weight of the realization pressing down on them. This wasn't just a normal threat. This was an enemy that could anticipate, mimic, and evolve in real time. A genius opponent using technology to turn their greatest strengths into potential weaknesses. And as the robots advanced, now moving with an almost frightening intelligence, Midoriya whispered under his breath, heart racing. We're not just fighting machines. We're fighting an enemy that can think faster than we can. And I don't know if we're ready for what comes next. Above them, Eggman smiled, his eyes glowing behind thick glasses. Observe, adapt, dominate. Let's see how far your world can stretch before it breaks. The battle was just beginning, and with each passing second, the egg pawns grew smarter, deadlier, and more terrifyingly familiar. The egg carrier loomed above Musutafu like a storm incarnate. Its massive hull reflected the city lights in fractured metallic patterns, casting shadows that stretched across neighborhoods like dark fingers. From every street and rooftop, citizens looked up, mouths agape, unable to comprehend the scale of the floating fortress. Its engines thrummed with a mechanical heartbeat that vibrated through the air, rattling windows, shaking the streets, and setting nerves on edge. Pro-heroes gathered at a safe distance, their faces grim under the dim glow of emergency lights. Eraserhead hovered in mid-air, scanning the egg carrier with a sharp gaze. This isn't a random assault, he muttered. This is a coordinated operation. Whoever's inside knows exactly what they're doing. Midoriya, notebook in hand, observed the fortress with an analytical eye. It's enormous, he whispered, almost to himself. And the way it hovers, the defenses, it's not just advanced. It's strategic. Whoever built this knows everything about combat, about hero systems. Bakugo's explosive quirk flared as he clenched his fists, anger coiling like a living thing inside him. Damn it! Who the hell thinks they can just show up and terrorize an entire city? I'm gonna blow that thing apart. But even he paused when the magnitude of the structure sank in. There was no simple target, no weak point visible from below. From within the fortress, a deep theatrical voice cut through the night air, amplified across communication networks, emergency broadcasts, and even hero channels. It was smooth, commanding, and unshakably confident. Citizens of this world, the voice boomed, your age of heroes is inefficient. Your so-called guardians, your quirk wielders, they fight bravely, yes, but their methods are flawed. Allow a genius to bring true order to your chaotic world. The broadcast sent a chill through every heart, civilians and heroes alike. Cameras captured the floating fortress as mechanical panels shifted, revealing thousands of tiny ports along the egg carrier's hull. They glinted like eyes, silent watchers surveying the streets below. Pro-heroes exchanged tense glances. Global level threat, Eraserhead muttered. This isn't just a villain with robots. This is a calculated strike on multiple levels. We need to contain this before it escalates further. Mirio, appearing beside them, flexed his body, ready to phase into the fray. If he's saying he's a genius, he's probably more than we've dealt with, but we don't have the luxury to wait. His voice carried both determination and the weight of responsibility. From inside the egg carrier, Eggman's fingers danced across a control panel, each movement precise, calculated. The fortress trembled as internal mechanisms whirred to life, hundreds of new egg pawns deploying from hidden compartments. They leapt into the night, descending toward the city streets with a fluidity that made them seem alive. Midoriya's eyes widened as he observed them adapting mid-flight, adjusting for wind currents and obstructions with uncanny precision. They're not just weapons, they're evolving in real time. Bakugo growled, firing explosive blasts at the descending machines, only to see them split, merge, and counterattack almost instantly. What the hell? They're copying my explosions now? Eraserhead's jaw tightened. The egg carrier isn't just a base. It's a command center, a data hub, an intelligence network. Every movement we make, every quirk we use, it's being recorded and analyzed. From the ground, civilians scattered, ducking behind overturned vehicles, while Midoriya shouted commands to coordinate evacuations. But even as they strategized, the egg pawns began forming tactical formations, predicting hero responses before they could react. Eggman's voice came again, taunting and confident. Your reliance on quirks makes you predictable. My machines do not tire, do not hesitate, and do not falter. You may have courage, but I have control. Above the chaos, a new panel on the egg carrier opened, releasing a spotlight that scanned the city like a predator seeking prey. Heroes flinched under the glare, their movements slowed as the fortress observed, calculated, and prepared. Midoriya clenched his fists. This isn't just about attacking the city. He's testing us, mapping us, understanding our limits. Bakugo spat out a curse, firing again with raw fury. Well, I'm not going down just because some egg-shaped nerd thinks he's smarter than me. But even Bakugo's ferocity was met with an eerie, mechanical precision. The egg pawns adjusted, repositioned, and countered every move. They weren't just opponents. They were an intelligence, one that mirrored the genius of the man commanding them. Eraserhead's eyes scanned the fortress. We have no choice. We need to understand this mind, or we're fighting shadows. And shadows don't tire, don't bleed, and don't make mistakes. Inside the egg carrier, Eggman leaned back, glasses gleaming, fingers tapping a rhythm across his console. Observe, calculate, perfect. Let's see how your so-called heroes handle true genius. And then, with a deep rumble, the egg carrier's engines roared, sending a shockwave across the city. Hundreds of new egg pawns launched in a coordinated strike, their advance unstoppable, their programming flawless. The pro heroes and Class 1A could only stare in disbelief, hearts racing. The world had just heard Eggman's declaration, and now it was about to face the full fury of his machines. Somewhere high above the city, the fortress shimmered ominously. Eggman's eyes glinted with excitement. Your age of heroes is over. Let the true order begin. And in that instant, the first wave of mechanized terror crashed into the city, signaling the beginning of a conflict that would challenge everything heroes believed about strength, strategy, and survival. The world didn't just wake up to a new threat. It jolted into a nightmare. Across every major city, hero agencies scrambled, sirens screaming in unison, emergency broadcasts flickering on screens with urgent warnings. Musutafu, Tokyo, Osaka, everywhere, the name egg carrier spread like wildfire, and with it a chilling realization. This wasn't a local attack. This was global. Inside the offices of the Hero Public Safety Commission, Endeavor leaned over a holographic display, eyes narrowing. Flames licked around his fists subconsciously, betraying his mounting tension. This isn't a normal villain, he said, voice clipped. He's organized, strategic, and whatever he is, he's studying us, watching us, learning from every quirk in play. Mirko paced behind him, tail flicking in agitation. Watching is one thing, but he's disrupting networks, communications, even drones. The egg carrier isn't just floating above the city. It's interfering with the entire surveillance system. If he's anywhere near a civilian hub, we won't even see him coming. Elsewhere, Hawks hovered above a sprawling urban district, scanning for anomalies. He's not just aggressive, he's precise. Every attack is calculated. Every robot, every maneuver, it's testing our responses. This is a tactical strike on hero society itself. Across the world, the news was frantic. Agencies in South America, Europe, even the hidden villages of Japan's outskirts scrambled, sending encrypted alerts, attempting to trace Eggman's digital footprints. But every attempt was met with interference, dead signals, and a creeping dread. No one had seen technology like this before. No one knew how to counter it. Then, the broadcast came. Across every channel, every network, a single face appeared. Not just any face, but Eggman's, towering on screens, smirk broad, eyes gleaming with manic intelligence. His voice carried authority, challenge, and promise of chaos. Heroes of this world, he announced, voice amplified and sharp, cutting through static and fear alike. I have studied you. I have cataloged your quirks, your capabilities, your weaknesses. This world is inefficient, and I intend to bring true order. The room fell silent. Endeavor's eyes flicked to the floor, then back to the screens. He's done it. He's analyzed quirks, thousands of them. Every hero, every student, every power in existence. He knows them now. Midoriya, watching from his dorm room with his classmates, felt the blood drain from his face. Thousands. He's built a database. Every quirk, every known ability, all mapped. He understands how we think, how we fight. Everything. Bakugo slammed his fist into a wall, denting the metal railing. That's impossible. No one could know everything about quirks. That's cheating. Todoroki's voice was calm, but heavy with disbelief. It doesn't matter if it's cheating. He understands our world better than we do right now, and he can use it against us. At the Public Safety Commission, Endeavor's face was rigid, the heat from his flames flaring as he clenched his fists. We need to consider this as a full-scale crisis. Eggman isn't just a villain. He's a new type of warlord, one who controls the battlefield before the battle even begins. Hawk's gaze narrowed. If he's cataloged quirks, he's already formulating counters. Every hero, every agency. None of us can act without being anticipated. That database, it's a weapon. The tension spread like wildfire. Agencies debated, strategized, argued. Was it better to confront Eggman head-on, risking total exposure to his knowledge? Or to retreat, gather intelligence, and attempt to strike blind? Each option carried monumental risks. Meanwhile, from the egg carrier, Eggman watched with glee. His control panels glowed with data streaming in from every corner of the globe. Ah, yes, this is perfect. Every ability quantified, every hero classified. Soon I will not only control technology, I will control the world's strongest individuals. Every quirk will be predictable. Every attack, anticipated. He tapped a command, and a map of global quirk activity illuminated his screens. Circles, dots, lines. Every hero, every student, every active quirk displayed in real time. He chuckled, low and menacing. The era of chaos is over. The era of genius begins. Back on the ground, Endeavor's voice rose above the murmurs of pro-heroes. We have to act. This isn't just Musutafu or Japan. This is global. If Eggman's database spreads, every hero's tactics, every student's training, all compromised. Midoriya's hands trembled as he flipped through his notebook. We can't just react. We have to anticipate. But how can we anticipate someone who's already anticipating us? Bakugo growled, voice raw with frustration and anger. We fight anyway. We survive anyway. Nobody tells us we're predictable. As the debate raged, Eggman's fortress glimmered high above the city, a sentinel of inevitability. Hundreds of egg pawns swarmed below in coordinated precision, their movements faster, sharper, smarter with every passing second. The message was clear. Eggman knew the world. And now, the world had to fight, knowing he had already mastered it. And somewhere, inside the fortress, Eggman smiled. Yes, observe, adapt, dominate. The Age of Heroes is merely a prelude. A chill rippled through hero society. The first seed of panic had taken root. Because now, the heroes understood the terrifying truth. This was no ordinary threat. This was a mind that had already mapped the battlefield, and the battlefield was their world. Darkness crept through the crumbling alleyways of Musutafu as the League of Villains regrouped, their silhouettes illuminated by the flickering glow of distant sirens. Smoke from the egg pawn's earlier attacks curled into the sky, carrying with it a sense of chaos that even seasoned criminals could feel deep in their bones. Tomura Shigaraki's eyes scanned the horizon, fingers twitching over his decayed hands. There was opportunity in this chaos, a chance not just to disrupt society, but to reshape it entirely. This isn't just another hero versus villain skirmish, Shigaraki muttered, voice low but carrying the weight of calculation. Something bigger is at play. I can feel it. The League shifted uneasily around him. Dabi's smirk was tight, his flames dancing in reflection of the ruined streets. Himiko Toga hummed, excitement lacing her voice, while Twice twitched nervously, sensing the tension in the air. From the shadows of a derelict warehouse, Shigaraki's communicator flickered. The holographic projection that emerged was unfamiliar, a face that he had never seen, but one that radiated intelligence and menace. Eggman. The sight of him, floating inside a colossal spinning machine, sent an unsettling thrill through the room. Shigaraki! The voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. You wish to see society burn. I wish to control it. Together, we could accelerate the evolution of this world. The League froze. Shigaraki's pale eyes narrowed. He had dealt with manipulators before, schemers who promised alliances only to betray. Yet there was something different here. Eggman didn't just want destruction. He wanted order, a calculated dominance that mirrored Shigaraki's own chaotic ambitions. A spark of curiosity ignited. What makes you think I'd work with you? Shigaraki's voice was slow, deliberate, curling like smoke in the air. I don't need anyone to accomplish my goals. I thrive on chaos. Eggman's grin widened across the hologram, a glint of metallic ambition in his eyes. Chaos is a tool, Mr. Shigaraki, and tools are most effective in the hands of those who know how to wield them. I've analyzed your quirk, your strategies, even your weaknesses. I understand what you can do and what you cannot. Think of it as efficiency and destruction. A shiver ran through the group. Shigaraki's mind raced. If this man could truly catalog quirks, understand the mechanics of hero society, predict moves before they happened, then he was not merely a threat. He was a weapon that could be bent to Shigaraki's will, or resisted at enormous risk. Dabi leaned forward, flames licking the edges of his fingers. You thinking what I'm thinking? He asked, voice husky. that we could use him to take the heroes down faster than ever. Shigaraki's eyes flicked to the hologram, considering, calculating. Maybe, he said finally, almost to himself. But a tool is only useful if it doesn't control you in return. Eggman's laughter echoed through the projection, deep and precise. Ah, but Mr. Shigaraki, control is relative. I only seek synergy, mutual benefit. I can provide what you lack: precision, strategy, knowledge of every hero, every quirk, every contingency. All I ask is that you help me implement it. Himiko Toga clapped her hands softly, tilting her head. I like him, she whispered, voice bubbling with strange excitement. He's smart. And scary. Just like you, Big Boss. Twice murmured under his breath, shuffling uneasily. Doesn't feel right, but it feels fun too. His fractured grin betrayed the strange allure of the proposition. Shigaraki's fingers twitched, dusting off the remnants of decay from his palm. Every instinct screamed caution, yet part of him craved the power that Eggman represented. A mind that had already mastered the battlefield before the battle began, one that could amplify his own ambitions exponentially. Fine, Shigaraki said, the word low but resolute. We'll see if you're a tool or a threat. But know this, he added, leaning closer to the projection. If you betray me, your entire world will burn before you even realize it. Eggman's eyes gleamed with a manic delight. Splendid. I wouldn't have it any other way. The hologram winked out, leaving the League in darkness. The hum of distant machinery, the eerie whirring of the egg ponds below, and the chaotic energy of the ruined streets created a symphony of tension. Shigaraki's grin widened, dust swirling around his feet. For the first time, he felt an unfamiliar thrill, a sense of possibility that went beyond mere destruction. Somewhere high above, the egg carrier floated, a colossal fortress of steel and light, its machinery humming with the analysis of quirks across the globe. Eggman had made contact, and now the world's greatest villain and its most brilliant opportunist were aligned, at least for the moment. A storm was gathering, not just above the cities, but within the balance of power itself. And as the shadows of the League of Villains melted into the night, the whisper of a new, unprecedented threat spread like wildfire through the underworld. Because in this world of quirks, sometimes the most dangerous alliances weren't forged from friendship, but from shared ambition. And the next move was already inevitable. Rain-slicked streets reflected the neon glow of emergency lights as heroes scrambled to contain the aftermath of Eggman's latest assault. The city was silent now, but the unease in the air was palpable, an unnatural tension that made every shadow feel like it moved with intent. The League of Villains had vanished into the chaos, but Eggman's presence was no longer subtle. Reports poured in. Missing villains, unusual energy spikes, and sightings of robotic soldiers moving with precision that seemed almost alive. Inside the egg carrier, Dr. Eggman's laboratory pulsed with an eerie crimson light. Screens lined the walls, flickering with real-time quirk analyses, genetic schematics, and energy readings. Captured villains were restrained in reinforced chambers, their quirks siphoned, studied, and digitized. The doctor paced between machines, fingers steepled, eyes glinting behind his glasses. Ah, fascinating, he murmured. Power distilled, codified, ready to be unleashed. On the observation deck, robotic arms moved with meticulous precision, attaching circuitry to test subjects, calibrating sensors, and injecting experimental nanomachines. These weren't merely robots anymore. They were evolving hybrids, machines infused with stolen Quirk energy. Eggman's machines had already begun to mimic elemental powers, super strength, and even flight. One robot flexed its mechanical fists, energy crackling along synthetic veins as if it were alive. Meanwhile, in the streets below, pro-heroes were reacting to the first real evidence of Quirk tech. Endeavor's eyes narrowed behind his mask, observing a patrol of these new mechanical soldiers. They moved with uncanny coordination, each equipped with abilities eerily similar to well-known heroes. The distinction between Quirk and machine blurred. This isn't like any villain I've faced, Endeavor muttered, the weight of realization pressing down. They're not human. They're something else entirely. Midoriya, analyzing footage on his communicator, felt a shiver run down his spine. One for all. Energy readings, he whispered to himself, eyes widening. He's managed to replicate it. In a machine. His mind raced, picturing the implications. Not just copy Quirk abilities, but harnessed, weaponized, and controlled. If Eggman could reproduce one for all, even partially, in a robotic soldier, the balance of power was in jeopardy. Elsewhere, Bakugo clenched his fists, fire sparking at his palms. Robots with quirks? He barked, voice sharp with disbelief. What the hell kind of cheating is this? Todoroki stood beside him, ice forming along his arms, the cold mask of his focus betraying a flicker of unease. It's adaptive, he said quietly. These machines, they're learning from us. Back on the egg carrier, Eggman observed a display showing a robot pulsing with bright, almost violent bursts of energy. It emitted a signature shockwave, the unmistakable echo of one for all. He leaned closer, eyes gleaming with manic delight. Marvelous, he whispered. A tool that harnesses the pinnacle of hero potential. Imagine the army I could create, the world reordered in perfect efficiency. In the city, chaos flared again as Quirk tech soldiers tested their newfound powers. One launched a devastating projectile that mimicked a hero's signature move with terrifying accuracy, toppling several structures in seconds. Civilians scattered, and even the most seasoned heroes had to pause, recalculating strategies against these hybrid threats. The line between human and machine, Quirk and technology, had dissolved. Midoriya's gaze hardened. If this spreads, if he can replicate more Quirks, Eggman isn't just a threat to our city. He could dominate hero society itself. He clenched his fists, heart pounding with both fear and determination. We need to stop him, before it's too late. Eggman, watching from above, smiled to himself. His machines hummed with energy, the stolen Quirks pulsing within synthetic veins. Yes, he muttered, the echo of machinery amplifying his words. The future of this world is mine to mold. And then, on a massive central console, a prototype came online. A towering robot, its chest glowing with the unmistakable energy signature of one for all, mimicking the very essence of the symbol of hope itself. Eggman's voice boomed through the lab, almost triumphant. Behold, the future of power, perfected. Let the heroes see what happens when technology and Quirk merge. As the camera pans out from the egg carrier, the city below is bathed in flickering light, the first real glimpse of this terrifying new army moving into position. Heroes prepare, villains stir in the shadows, and the world watches, unaware of just how close it is to a revolution engineered not by humans, but by the mind of one genius. And his machines. Because now Quirk Tech isn't just a concept. It's alive, and it's learning. The night air hung heavy with tension as Midoriya crouched atop the remnants of a toppled building, eyes scanning the city below. Smoke spiraled from shattered streets, flickering with the orange glow of emergency lights. The chaos left behind by Eggman's forces wasn't random. It was deliberate. Every robot strike, every corner they breached, seemed to form a pattern, a network of calculated pressure points across the city. And for the first time, Midoriya's mind caught the thread that tied it all together. "They're not attacking aimlessly," he whispered, voice barely audible over the distant sirens. "They're learning. And not just from us, from the city itself." His gaze traced the silhouettes of mechanical soldiers patrolling in perfect formation, each movement precise, each interaction analyzed. The AI wasn't simply observing, it was engineering. Eggman was treating this like a grand puzzle, piecing together the strengths and weaknesses of Hero Society, as though dissecting a clockwork mechanism. Nearby, Bakugo slammed his palm against a shattered wall, sparks igniting along his forearm. "What are you mumbling about, nerd? They're just robots. We blast them. They fall." But even Bakugo's confidence faltered as a mechanical soldier mimicked the trajectory of his last explosion, countering it with a perfectly timed energy blast. Midoriya's eyes widened. Exactly. That's the problem. He quickly activated his communicator, summoning the teachers to convene. In the heat of battle, in the shadow of rising destruction, he explained his findings with the urgency of someone who had glimpsed a storm before it struck. "Sir, these machines aren't just weapons. They're diagnostics. Eggman isn't invading to destroy. We've been fighting pieces of a much larger design. He's studying us, our quirk systems, our strategies, and he's learning to replicate them." Eraserhead, listening from a nearby vantage point, frowned deeply, eyes narrowing beneath the brim of his mask. "So what you're saying, he's turning our strengths against us." His voice carried the weight of grim realization. The implications were staggering. Every quirk, every tactical choice, every human advantage they relied on could now be understood, measured, and eventually weaponized. Midoriya's breath quickened as he scrolled through images captured from drone surveillance. One frame froze his heart, an outline of a mechanical humanoid absorbing the energy signature of One for All during a skirmish. The robot mimicked his movements perfectly, its metallic frame pulsing with stolen power. The thought struck him like a physical blow. "If he can do this with One for All," he whispered, shaking, "there's no limit to what he could replicate." Across the city, the egg carrier hovered like an ominous sentinel, massive thrusters cutting arcs of light into the night sky. Within its walls, Eggman monitored live feeds of Midoriya and Class 1A, algorithms calculating, predicting, evolving. His voice crackled through encrypted channels, almost amused. "Observe the natural order of heroism, refined by technology. One misstep, and the world reshapes itself according to my design." Meanwhile, Midoriya turned to his classmates, urgency flaring in his green eyes. "We've been treating this like another battle, another wave of villains. But it's more than that. Eggman isn't just invading, he's redesigning everything. Hero Society, the balance of power, even the way quirks interact. If we don't understand his endgame, we won't just lose a city. We could lose the world we protect." Bakugo's scowl deepened, but this time his fire sputtered into silence. Todoroki's ice coiled nervously around his arms, reflecting the glow of distant fires. Even the younger students felt the gravity of Midoriya's words. For the first time, the clash of power and machinery felt like the tip of an iceberg, and beneath it, something far more dangerous was stirring. High above, the egg carrier's central command pulsed with energy, a living nexus of information. Data streams tracked the locations, quirks, and combat patterns of every hero in real time. And as Midoriya pieced it all together, a cold realization washed over him. Eggman wasn't merely a villain from another world. He was a strategist, a scientist, a mind capable of rewriting the rules of heroism itself. Midoriya clenched his fists, determination hardening alongside the dread coiling in his chest. "We have to stop him," he said, voice resolute. "But first, we need to understand him. Every move, every machine, every quirk he's studied, it's all part of a plan. And if we don't figure out the pattern, we're already behind." As the camera pans upward, the egg carrier casts a massive shadow over the city, thrusters glowing ominously. Below, heroes prepare to act, unaware that their next encounter will not just test strength, but strategy, adaptation, and the very definition of what it means to be a protector. And deep within the carrier, Eggman's voice echoed, almost in anticipation, redesigning a world of heroes. Step by step. Let's see if they can survive the masterpiece I am about to unveil. The world held its breath. The world woke to a nightmare dressed in steel. From the skies above Tokyo to the streets of Paris, New York, and beyond, massive robotic formations carved a path of methodical conquest. Eggman's machines moved with a precision that no human or quirk could hope to match. Skyscrapers trembled under the weight of mechanized armies, their thrusters sending clouds of dust and sparks into the twilight. This was no mere invasion. This was the birth of an empire, a meticulously orchestrated takeover that left hero society reeling. In Yue's war room, Endeavor slammed a gloved hand onto the map console, flames flickering along his arms in anxious rhythm. They've coordinated strikes across every continent. It's not random. It's strategy. Hawks hovered above, eyes scanning satellite feeds with a grimace. Every quirk we rely on, every method we trust, Eggman's machines anticipate it. They're countering heroes before we even reach them. Midoriya clenched his fists, a knot of tension coiling in his chest. It's worse than we thought. The Quirk Tech units, they've been upgraded with knowledge of our abilities. They're not just machines, they're adaptive weapons. Every attack we make teaches them. Every tactic we use becomes their next counter. Bakugo's explosions tore through a nearby street, only to be absorbed and mirrored by a squadron of mechanical soldiers. His furious roar echoed through the night. What the hell? These things. They know my moves. Todoroki's ice collided against a laser barrage, the streams of fire and frost reflecting the chaos in his eyes. We're losing ground faster than we can respond. It's like fighting shadows of ourselves. Across the globe, cities fell under Eggman's control with a terrifying efficiency. Communications collapsed. Transportation networks froze, and power grids flickered under constant assault. Citizens cowered indoors as drones and egg pawns patrolled the streets, their sensors scanning for resistance. Heroes were stretched thin, often responding too late to save entire districts from mechanized occupation. From his floating fortress, the egg carrier, Eggman observed with clinical satisfaction. His fingers danced across holographic panels, algorithms processing terabytes of real-time combat data. He leaned back in his chair, chuckling softly. Hero Society has been upgraded, he announced, his voice booming over intercepted channels. They thought quirks alone defined their strength. I've redefined it. Every power, every strategy, every hero's instinct. It belongs to me now. Even the League of Villains watched the broadcasts with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Shigaraki's pale eyes narrowed beneath the shadow of his hair. So, he's not just another enemy. He's a strategist, a mind capable of controlling everything, even the quirks that make us who we are. The seeds of uneasy alliance began to stir in his thoughts. Perhaps this new world order could serve his own designs. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Class 1A regrouped atop a crumbling overpass, surveying the metallic swarms encroaching upon the city. Midoriya's heart raced as he tried to connect the dots in real time. It's everywhere. The egg carrier has launched these units simultaneously. Every hero agency is stretched to the breaking point. And the machines, they evolve faster than we can predict. He turned to Bakugo, whose chest heaved from exertion, explosions sizzling from his palms. We can't just fight blindly anymore. We need to understand the system Eggman is building, before it's too late. Eraserhead appeared beside them, voice low but urgent. He's not playing by our rules. These aren't villains. These are pieces of a machine designed to take us apart. You'll need more than quirk power to survive this. You'll need strategy, teamwork, and every ounce of creativity you have. Above them, the egg carrier glinted like a steel sun, casting shadows over the streets as thrusters ignited in synchronized bursts. The fortress released thousands of smaller units into the air, each engineered to neutralize specific quirks, laser arrays that tracked movement, shields that mirrored force, and drones capable of overriding quirk-based attacks. Cities became battlefields of impossible odds, and heroes everywhere faced the stark reality. They were fighting against evolution itself. From the center of it all, Eggman's laughter echoed through encrypted frequencies, cold and triumphant. The age of heroes is over. The Eggman Empire begins, and the world will bend to the perfection of technology. As the camera sweeps over crumbling skylines and advancing armies, the narration lingers on a single, chilling thought. This is not merely an invasion. It is the dawn of a new order, one in which even the strongest heroes may be powerless against the genius behind the machines. And in that silence between battles, one question hangs heavy over the world. Can anyone stop the Eggman Empire before the planet itself becomes his playground? The world had begun to ask itself a question that no hero wanted to hear. What makes a hero? In the shadow of Eggman's rising empire, Tokyo's streets were a strange, unnerving theater. Smoke curled from toppled buildings, while drones and egg pawns moved with unnerving precision, rescuing civilians caught in collapsing skyscrapers. The footage was broadcast worldwide, looped endlessly on every screen. People watched as metal soldiers lifted debris, guided frightened families to safety, and even neutralized minor threats before local heroes arrived. Midoriya sat in UA's observation deck, the glow of screens illuminating his furrowed brow, his fists clenched and unclenched as he watched. They're saving people, but they're not heroes. They don't choose to risk themselves. They just calculate the outcome. His voice was quiet, but the weight behind it pressed on everyone in the room. Beside him, Uraraka's hands trembled slightly. But the people are safe. Isn't that what matters? It matters, Midoriya replied, his eyes fixed on the mechanical saviors moving through the streets. But All Might taught us that being a hero isn't just about saving lives. It's about sacrifice, about courage, about standing up when everything is against you. These machines, they don't understand that. Above the chaos, All Might's voice echoed through the hero's communications, calm yet heavy. True heroism is more than efficiency, Midoriya. Technology can mimic the act of saving a life, but it cannot embody the heart behind it. Even seasoned heroes were beginning to feel the tremors of doubt. Endeavor's fire burned dimmer than usual as he studied reports. The public, they're responding to Eggman's broadcasts. They see order, they see efficiency, and some are beginning to wonder if heroes are obsolete. Hawks, always sharp and calculating, shook his head. It's not just morale, it's a crisis of perception. People are judging us by metrics, by what's visible on screens. Eggman is weaponizing trust and expectation against us. Bakugo slammed his gauntleted hands under the table, sparks dancing in his frustration. So what the hell are we supposed to do? Just let machines take over because they look impressive on camera? Midoriya's mind raced. He pulled up combat logs, footage from different cities, trying to find patterns. Eggman isn't just fighting. He's rewriting the definition of heroism in the public's eyes. Every time a robot performs a heroic act, it chips away at our legacy. If we don't act, people might start to prefer the predictability of machines to the messiness of human heroes. A sudden alert flashed across the screen. A swarm of mechanical units had converged on a collapsing hospital. Citizens trapped inside were being evacuated efficiently. Too efficiently. Midoriya's chest tightened. We can't just show up and fight. If we intervene, the public might see us as less effective than Eggman's army. But if we don't, the heart of heroism, our spirit, risks being forgotten. Todoroki spoke, voice low but steady, cutting through the tension. We need to remind the world why heroes exist. It's not just about saving lives. It's about how we do it. Sacrifice, empathy. That's what machines cannot replicate. As they debated, Eggman's voice rang across every broadcast, smooth and chilling. Why trust fallible humans when perfection is available? These machines can save thousands, calculate outcomes, and never falter. Hero society is outdated. Perhaps it's time for an upgrade. The message hit harder than any physical attack. Across the globe, ordinary citizens whispered, argued, and feared. Was heroism something that could be quantified, optimized, and replaced? Midoriya clenched his notebook, filled with observations, sketches, and calculations. His mind worked furiously, not on attacks or defenses, but on ideals. We need to fight differently, not just with quirks, but with proof. Proof that heroism is more than saving lives. It's about choice, about heart, about standing in the fire when even the machines calculate that you might fail. In that moment, a new determination settled over the young heroes. They were up against a world that questioned everything they stood for. Eggman's army was not only a threat to their cities, it was a threat to the very concept of heroism itself. The camera sweeps across a city skyline, half in ruin, half illuminated by the methodical efficiency of Eggman's forces. Midoriya's voice breaks the silence. If heroes cannot prove their worth, then the world will belong to the machines. And as the sun dipped behind smoke-filled horizons, the question remained suspended in the minds of millions. Can the spirit of heroism survive against a perfect army? The stage was set. The world was watching. And the answer would demand more than power. It would demand a soul. The sky above the city was a bruised canvas of smoke and fire. jagged streaks of red and orange illuminating the crumbling skyline. Bakugo's eyes burned like molten metal, reflecting the chaos below. The broadcasts from Eggman's network had been clear. His machines were not only efficient, they were flawless, executing heroic acts while the real heroes faltered. And Bakugo refused to accept it. "They're not heroes!" he shouted to the empty streets, his voice raw with defiance. "They're just machines, cold, calculated, and worthless unless they're following orders." His fists sparked uncontrollably, explosions flaring off the tips of his gloves like lightning striking in anger. He didn't wait for strategy meetings, for hesitant plans. He didn't wait for anyone. If Eggman wanted to prove that technology could replace courage, Bakugo would tear that illusion apart with his own hands. With a burst of speed that left shockwaves across the city streets, Bakugo launched himself toward an Eggman-controlled facility. Skyscrapers blurred past as he flew, detonating small, precise explosions to clear automated defenses. His aura radiated a raw, defiant energy, the embodiment of a hero refusing to bend, refusing to surrender the very essence of what made him human. Inside the facility, corridors twisted like mechanical veins. Egg pawns patrolled in perfect synchronization, their glowing red optics tracking Bakugo's every movement. But he wasn't cautious. He didn't need caution. He needed to strike. "This is it," Bakugo muttered, voice low and sharp. "I'll show them. I'll show Eggman." Explosions cracked down the halls as Bakugo carved out a path toward the central control chamber. Panels and wires melted and warped under his relentless barrage, sparks raining like miniature fireworks. Yet, with each step he took, a chilling realization began to creep into his mind. The machines weren't reacting randomly. Each countermeasure was preemptive, precise, almost predictive. Then the lights flickered. The facility hummed with an almost sentient awareness. Bakugo skidded to a halt, eyes narrowing. The doors to the central chamber slid open, and there he was, Dr. Eggman. Towering within his command console, a smirk splitting his face as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Ah, the fiery young hero," Eggman's voice boomed, layered with the mechanical resonance of his amplifiers. "You're predictable. Bold, yes. Brave, certainly. But predictable." Bakugo's chest heaved. "I don't care about your calculations. I'm not afraid of you. I'll..." Before he could finish, the room shifted. The floor beneath him moved, panels sliding open to reveal dozens of machines, bristling with weapons calibrated to counter his explosions. They weren't just defending, they were studying. Bakugo's own attacks had been recorded, analyzed, and adapted to. The hallway was a gauntlet designed for him specifically. "No, this isn't real," he barked, firing off another volley, only to have the machines absorb and redirect the blasts back at him with surgical precision. Every punch, every detonation was mirrored and nullified. His anger roared, a storm that clashed with the cold calculation of Eggman's army. Then came the trap. A massive mechanical claw shot from the ceiling, wrapping around him before he could react. Sparks showered from the impact, the force throwing him into the chamber's center. He landed hard, smoke curling from the tips of his gauntlets. His vision swam, rage clawing at the edges of his consciousness. Eggman's voice cut through the haze like a scalpel. "Heroism is admirable, young Bakugo, but it is inefficient. Passion without strategy is meaningless. Your stubbornness, fascinating, but ultimately futile." Bakugo's eyes narrowed. filled with defiance, fire, and the unshakable refusal to yield. Yet the cold metal encased him, chains of high-tensile alloys laced with energy dampeners, restricting his movement and suppressing his quirk's output. The explosion that had been his essence, his declaration, his weapon, was now contained, rendered inert. You can't, he spat, voice shaking. Heroes can't be replaced. Eggman leaned forward, tapping a console. The room echoed with the whirring and clanking of machines activating in unison. Perhaps not yet, but they can be outclassed. And you, young hero, will be my first demonstration. Bakugo's defiance burned brighter than the sparks dancing around him, but even he could sense the weight of inevitability pressing down. Captured, restrained, yet unbroken, he was a spark contained within a cage of steel and computation. Outside, UA monitors flickered with the live feed. Midoriya, Uraraka, Todoroki, all watched in tense silence. Bakugo's reckless charge had been expected. The plan had been anticipated. And now, the fiery hero was a prisoner. The screen shifted, Eggman's smirk filling the frame. Let the world see, even heroes can be contained. And as the feed ended, a chilling truth settled over those who watched. Bakugo's courage had led him into a trap. But more terrifying was the knowledge that Eggman wasn't just conquering cities. He was systematically dismantling the very spirit of heroism. The world waited, breath held, for the next move. And somewhere deep within that metallic fortress, Bakugo's eyes burned still, promising one thing. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The air inside Eggman's fortress hummed with a tense energy, vibrating through the steel walls like the heartbeat of a machine. Sparks leapt from the conduits overhead, casting fleeting shadows across the rows of monitors displaying Bakugo's every move, every reaction, every flinch of muscle and surge of quirk energy. He was studying the boy. No, he wasn't just studying. He was decoding him. Bakugo's furious spirit had already been harnessed once, and Eggman's calculations had been meticulous. But now, the villainous genius was venturing into uncharted territory. Explosion-powered combat robots, designed with one purpose: to replicate, enhance, and perfect the raw destructive power that Bakugo wielded with reckless abandon. Through the thick glass of a control room, Bakugo's eyes glowed, his hands clenched into fists as he watched the prototype being revealed. It was horrifyingly familiar. Sleek metal plating, pistons synchronized to mimic his muscle movements, reactors pulsing like tiny suns along their backs. Each robot was calibrated to channel explosions with surgical precision. More controlled, more powerful, and infinitely faster than any human could manage. Bakugo's chest tightened, a mix of rage and disbelief churning in his stomach. No, this isn't just copying me, he muttered under his breath, the sound barely audible over the mechanical hum. He's improving me, making something better than me. He's turning my own quirk into a weapon against the world, and against heroes. The robots sprang to life in a synchronized display, flames erupting along their arms as they launched a barrage of concentrated explosions at targets across the testing chamber. Bakugo's pupils narrowed. Every detonation was cleaner, more efficient, a violent ballet of fire and fury that mirrored his own techniques, but stripped of human error, stripped of hesitation. From across the room, Eggman's voice slithered through the speakers, smooth and calculated. Marvelous, isn't it? You pour your soul into a quirk, and I transform it into perfection. Flaws removed, potential amplified. You taught me the power of raw emotion, Bakugo, and now I wield it with precision. Bakugo slammed his fists against the glass, sparks flying from the tips of his gloves. You're insane, he screamed. Power doesn't mean everything. You don't get it. You'll never understand. Explosions aren't just fire and destruction. They're me, and you can't steal that. Eggman chuckled, a mechanical edge undercutting the amusement. Steal? Oh, my fiery little hero. I don't steal. I evolve. And evolution waits for no one. Bakugo's mind raced. Every instinct screamed that these robots were designed to do one thing: anticipate him, outmatch him, and spread chaos on a scale he couldn't counter alone. If Eggman could copy his quirk, he could do the same to anyone. Perhaps even All Might. Perhaps even One for All. The implications crashed over him like a tidal wave. Outside, the fortress trembled as new units were deployed. They moved with terrifying autonomy, their explosions precise, their paths calculated. Each detonation left no collateral damage, no hesitation, only results. The world would see only order, efficiency, and heroics performed with the cold perfection of metal. Bakugo's fury twisted into a knot of fear and determination. I won't let him do this, he growled. His mind raced through strategies, but the truth was undeniable. Facing Eggman's creations head-on would be suicide. And yet, to cower was unthinkable. His pride, his very identity, demanded a stand. Eggman's voice cut through again, almost casually. Soon, the world will see the pinnacle of heroism, young Bakugo. A force that can replace hesitation, replace error, replace the very flaws that humans cling to. And you will show me how well I've done. Bakugo's jaw clenched as he realized the cruel twist of fate. He wasn't just a prisoner of steel and computation anymore. He had become the blueprint for a new era, one where emotion and heroism were subordinate to cold, calculated efficiency. Eggman wasn't merely conquering heroes, he was rewriting the rules entirely. In the shadows of the testing chamber, the robot's reactors pulsed, echoing the rhythm of Bakugo's own heart. Sparks danced along their sleek frames, each one a silent challenge to the boy whose quirk had been their inspiration. Bakugo's voice was barely a whisper, yet it carried the weight of defiance and fire. You think you can make me obsolete, but you'll never break me. You'll never take me from this power. And as the first wave of robots activated, rolling forward with precision-engineered destruction, a new, chilling reality settled over the battlefield. Eggman wasn't just a villain. He was a visionary, and Bakugo's own quirk had become the perfect weapon. The fortress doors rumbled ominously, and the first explosion lit the horizon beyond the glass. Bakugo knew one thing with absolute certainty. Surviving this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the fortress, Eggman's smirk deepened. Let's see how you handle your own perfection. And in that moment, the boy who once prided himself on raw power understood the terrifying truth. The line between hero and weapon was disappearing, and he was standing right at its edge. Thunder rolled across the horizon as the combined forces of heroes and students surged forward, a living wave of color, power, and determination. The Eggman bases, once isolated fortresses of steel and fire, now bristled with a horrifying new sophistication. Sensors blinked, drones buzzed overhead, and every turret seemed alive, anticipating the next move. From the air, Bakugo led the charge with explosive bursts, carving paths through the metallic army, while Uraraka floated alongside, lifting debris and shielding allies with perfect timing. Midoriya darted between structures, analyzing every movement. These aren't just robots anymore, he muttered, narrowly dodging a plasma blast. They're adapting, learning from our attacks. Eggman has turned evolution into a weapon. Below, Endeavor's heat waves sliced through the armored ranks. His face was tense, sweat glinting under the harsh light of his quirk. Focus on coordination, he barked. Attack in patterns, not solo. Don't give them a chance to learn from you. But Eggman had already anticipated even this. On the largest monitor, his crimson eyes glinted behind the thick glasses of a digital avatar. His voice crackled over the loudspeakers, smooth and taunting. Ah, the world's finest heroes finally arriving in unison. How touching. But evolution does not wait, and neither do I. The ground trembled as the egg carrier, the colossal fortress hovering over the central command base, began to shift. Panels rotated, gears ground, and hidden thrusters ignited. What was once a massive, imposing airship now unfolded into a structure of nightmarish complexity, its silhouette stretching like a living organism across the cityscape. Every hero paused, sensing the danger before seeing it. Everyone, hold positions. All Might's voice boomed, though his form flickered with weariness. This isn't just a stronghold. It's a weapon. From the transformed egg carrier, dozens of new combat units emerged, each one gliding on hoverpads, their bodies glinting with reflective armor. Each carried the enhancements of the Quirk tech Eggman had perfected. Energy blasts, precision targeting, speed beyond human reflexes. One unit even mirrored Midoriya's own one-for-all movements, launching rapid strikes with near-perfect timing. Bakugo, Midoriya whispered, gripping his gloves tighter. He's copying us, all of us, and he's faster this time. Bakugo's teeth ground together, explosions sparking along his palms. Then we hit harder, smarter. He doesn't get to dictate how we fight. His voice cracked with anger and determination, a storm in human form. With a roar, he launched himself toward the nearest cluster of robots, detonations tearing the air apart as he carved through Eggman's forces. Yet, every advance seemed to trigger a counter. As heroes destroyed one unit, another emerged from the depths of the carrier, its systems already analyzing and adapting to the attacks. Even civilians in the distance, evacuated but watching, felt the tension like an electric current. Eggman had turned heroism itself into a game of reaction and adaptation. On the rooftops, Uraraka and Yaoyorozu coordinated a diversion, lifting massive debris and creating barriers for the advancing heroes. Keep moving, Yaoyorozu called, crafting devices from street rubble. We can't let them box us in. But the egg carrier's transformation was far from complete. Massive thrusters ignited along its sides, lifting its bulk higher into the sky. Its surface shimmered, panels shifting to reveal new weapons, missile arrays, plasma cannons, and strange energy emitters that hummed with ominous intent. What had been a single threat was now a fortress-sized machine of war, its design fluid and alive. Doria's heart pounded as he realized the stakes. If that thing finishes transforming, we won't just be fighting robots. We'll be fighting the entire city's destruction. Even All Might, standing firm despite his fading strength, looked upward with a hint of dread. This isn't just an attack, he admitted. This is domination on a scale we've never seen. Bakugo's fists flared, flames sparking around him as he yelled, "Then we take it down, no matter what." But even as he lunged, the carrier's upper decks twisted and extended, preparing for a counterstrike that could level the city. Eggman's voice echoed through the battle, now from within the transformed carrier itself. Welcome to the next stage of evolution, heroes. Observe, adapt, or perish. As the camera of the narrative pans over the chaos, heroes striking, robots countering, the carrier's silhouette casting a looming shadow, the true scale of the threat becomes clear. Eggman's forces are no longer isolated. They are a fluid, intelligent, and terrifyingly adaptable army. And in the center of it all, the egg carrier begins a low hum, vibrating the city beneath, promising a transformation that could change the very battlefield forever. Every hero froze for a heartbeat, realizing the precariousness of their stand. The egg carrier's evolution wasn't just physical, it was strategic, unstoppable, and alive. From the skyline, Midoriya clenched his fists, sweat and determination mixing on his brow. This is bigger than we imagined. We have to stop it before it finishes changing. And then, with a sudden mechanical roar, the carrier extended its central spine upward, panels clicking into new positions, weapons primed, engines igniting in a cascade of fire and metal. The city trembled. A collective gasp rose from every hero on the battlefield. The Eggman Empire was no longer just an invader. It was a living, breathing force, and it was about to strike. The screen fades on the towering carrier, its transformation almost complete, leaving one chilling thought echoing in every hero's mind. This was only the beginning. Lightning split the darkened sky as Shigaraki's silhouette tore across the Eggman fortress, each step cracking concrete and metal beneath him. The League of Villains had arrived not to follow Eggman's vision, but to destroy it. Their chaotic energy surged through the corridors of steel and whirring machinery, turning the once pristine technological wonder into a battlefield of shadows and fire. Shigaraki's hands twitched with anticipation. Every fingertip itched, ready to crumble walls, shatter gears, and undo Eggman's empire. "You think you can play God?" he hissed, his voice echoing off the metallic walls. "I won't let you rule the world. Not you. Not your machines." Yet, as he advanced, the fortress itself seemed alive, almost anticipating his approach. Turrets swiveled silently, cameras tracked his movements, and robotic drones zipped past, narrowly missing his destructive strikes. Eggman's laugh crackled over the intercom, smooth and eerily calm. "Ah, Shigaraki, I was wondering when you'd make your move. So predictable, yet exhilarating." Shigaraki snarled, sending a wave of decay through a security drone, reducing it to a pile of smoking circuits. "You've been manipulating heroes, villains, and machines alike, but your little game ends here." The corridors exploded as the egg carrier's automated defenses activated in full response. Giant mechanized arms emerged from the walls, spinning gears and plasma blades designed to counter quirks like Shigaraki's. He dodged effortlessly, leaving a trail of destruction, but a faint sense of unease crept through him. Eggman wasn't improvising. Every obstacle had been predicted, every move calculated. High above, the main chamber of the fortress began to shift. Panels slid open, revealing a massive, humming core. Its surface pulsed with a sickly red glow, energy crackling like a storm trapped inside the metal. "So, this is it," Shigaraki muttered under his breath. "The ultimate weapon." Eggman's voice slithered through the corridors again, tinged with amusement. "Curiosity suits you, Shigaraki, but beware, curiosity comes at a price." Without warning, the floor beneath Shigaraki erupted. Mechanized claws lunged from the depths, aiming to immobilize him, but he was faster, using decay with brutal precision to shred the metal before it could ensnare him. Yet, every strike revealed more. The fortress had layers, defenses stacked like a fortress of nightmares. Eggman had anticipated betrayal long before it even happened. Shigaraki paused atop a broken platform, scanning the core as his fingers twitched with power. He realized the horrifying truth. This wasn't just a fortress or a weapon. It was alive in its strategy, adapting to every quirk, every tactic, every emotion. Eggman hadn't merely created machines. He had created a chessboard, and he knew all the moves. Then, the core pulsed violently, casting a crimson glow that painted the walls and Shigaraki himself in ominous light. The ultimate weapon activated. A mechanical roar filled the chamber, a sound that combined grinding metal, pulsating energy, and the eerie hum of artificial intelligence running unchecked. Energy surged from the core, and the fortress's very frame began to twist, shifting into a towering form that dwarfed the villains below. Shigaraki's jaw tightened, his decay flaring wildly. So, this is how you planned it. You expected me to come. You expected betrayal. And now, this monstrosity. From the center of the core, a weapon emerged, an amalgamation of Eggman's machines and Quirk-enhancing technology. It pulsed with explosive energy, capable of replicating the quirks of anyone in range, turning them into devastating projectiles. Its presence made even the cold, calculating villains pause. For the first time, Shigaraki's confident smirk faltered. Eggman's projection appeared at the edge of the chamber, his hands steepled, eyes gleaming behind his glasses. Predictable, yes, but necessary. Shigaraki, you may have broken my defenses, but you cannot break evolution itself. Shigaraki's decay spread across the floor in a desperate, swirling storm, ripping metal and concrete as he prepared for an assault. Evolution, you're nothing but a delusional toy maker. I'll crush you. Your machines, your empire, everything. But even as he struck, the fortress countered. Mechanical appendages blocked his path. Energy pulses reflected his attacks, and drones swooped in, adapting faster than ever. Eggman's ultimate weapon began to hum with increasing intensity, energy streaming in arcs across the floor, walls, and ceiling. The villains froze, recognizing the magnitude of the threat. Shigaraki's voice cut through the tension, sharp and furious. No matter what you unleash, I will tear it down. And then, the chamber shook violently, the fortress groaning as if alive, the ultimate weapon fully online, its power radiating with terrifying potential. Outside, alarms screamed across the Eggman Empire. The heroes battling above felt a pulse of energy that rattled their bones. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to stretch. Shigaraki stood amid the chaos, decay flaring around him, staring at the weapon that could annihilate everything. Eggman's laughter echoed through the fortress, and a single chilling thought gripped the mind of every observer. This betrayal was anticipated, and the real game had only just begun. The scene cuts to black, leaving only the faint pulse of crimson energy and the echo of Eggman's words. Welcome to the true evolution of power. The sky over Musutafu burned with the pale light of dawn, but the calm was shattered by a sound no hero had expected. The grinding roar of mechanized steps, echoing across the city streets. Civilians froze, looking up as a towering figure emerged from the shadows of Eggman's latest fortress. A colossus, built in gleaming steel and golden armor, radiating an energy so familiar it sent chills down the spines of every hero in sight. Metal all might. Every detail was perfect. The stoic jaw, the iconic hair, the unyielding posture of the symbol of peace himself. But stripped of humanity, Eggman's creation moved with mechanical precision, each step shaking the pavement, each motion radiating power far beyond what any human could match. The city's defenders instinctively flinched. Even seasoned pro-heroes, battle-hardened and scarred from countless fights, felt a crack of doubt in their hearts. Bakugo's fists sparked, a warning flare of his explosive quirk, yet his hands trembled slightly. It's him, he muttered, voice tight. All might, but not. Don't waste your time being shocked, shouted Endeavor from the rooftop, eyes narrowing with controlled fury. Focus, analyze, then attack. But as the first heroes advanced, Metal All Might didn't hesitate. He moved faster than expected, the ground beneath him erupting in seismic force with each punch. Todoroki launched a precise ice beam, splitting the air with a hiss, aiming to slow him, but the beam was absorbed into the golden armor, dissipating harmlessly. A single swing of metal. All Might's arm sent heroes flying, one by one crashing into ruined buildings, the air itself shaking with the impact. Midoriya gritted his teeth, leaping into the fray, his green hair a blur of motion. This isn't a robot you can brute force. It's All Might, replicated and enhanced. He landed atop a crumbling wall, observing closely. The robot's movements were eerily reminiscent of All Might's fighting style, but calculated, optimized, devoid of hesitation. It countered Quirks as if predicting the next step before it happened. For every attack, there was a precise defense. For every strategy, a countermeasure. The sheer perfection was horrifying. Eggman, Midoriya whispered under his breath, realization dawning. He doesn't just mimic power. He improves it. He learns, adapts, predicts. The heroes regrouped, forming a defensive perimeter. But even together, they struggled to land meaningful blows. Metal All Might's mechanical fists shattered concrete away with ease, his speed and strength magnified beyond natural limits. Civilians scattered as the battlefield became a war zone, debris and energy tearing through the streets like a storm. Ochiko floated overhead, trying to evacuate as many people as she could, glancing nervously at her companions. He's unstoppable, she cried, panic threading her voice. We're supposed to protect them, but he's too strong. Bakugo's eyes burned with rage. Stop whining and fight. He's not All Might. He's a toy, a fake. But even as he charged, the realization sank in. Metal. All Might was more than a toy. Each of Bakugo's explosions was met with an adaptive shield, absorbing the blast and redirecting it with devastating force. It wasn't just strength. It was strategy. It was perfection, born from Eggman's obsession. High above the chaos, All Might himself observed in disbelief, his cape fluttering in the wind. His face, usually a mask of unshakable confidence, betrayed concern. This is impossible, to replicate what I stood for, so perfectly, yet without soul. Eggman's voice crackled through every monitor in the city, smug and gleeful. Behold, the pinnacle of heroism, reimagined. Humanity's weakness replaced with perfection. Who needs heroes when machines surpass them? The ultimate challenge had been unleashed. Each hero struck with desperation, coordinating attacks, quirk combinations, and tactical maneuvers. But Metal All Might absorbed it all, each movement a demonstration of the terrifying elegance of engineering fused with quirk replication. Shigaraki, observing from a hidden vantage, smirked despite the destruction. Even I have to admit, he's impressive, he muttered, watching heroes struggle against a force they'd revered. Yet there was a subtle edge of unease beneath his grin. If a machine could embody the symbol of peace, what chance did they all have? Then, the unthinkable happened. With a powerful stomp, Metal All Might's gaze swept the battlefield, and in a single, terrifying motion, he launched multiple top heroes flying like ragdolls, their combined efforts obliterated in a pulse of force. The city trembled. Dust and debris clouded the horizon. Midoriya's heart pounded. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. This isn't just a fight. It's a message, he said, voice tight. Eggman is telling us. Anyone can be replaced. And from the shadows, Eggman's laughter rang out, triumphant and mocking. Observe my little Quirk-powered world. Even your symbols fall before progress. The heroes lay scattered, battered, and shaken. The symbol of peace, emulated, weaponized, and perfected, stood motionless amidst the chaos, a gleaming monument to Eggman's ambition. Midoriya's green eyes burned with determination, his mind racing. We can't let this stand. If we lose now, it's not just a battle we lose. It's everything we fight for. And as the camera pulls back, showing Metal All Might towering over Musutafu, the city trembling beneath him, and the heroes gathering their strength once more, one thought dominates every heart. The greatest symbol of peace has been turned into the ultimate weapon, and the real fight has only just begun. The skyline of Musutafu was unrecognizable. Buildings smoldered, streets cracked open, and the once vibrant hum of city life had been replaced by the mechanical symphony of Eggman's machines. Metallic claws tore through the infrastructure as armies of robots moved in synchronized precision, converting every corner of the city into an industrial nightmare. Hero society was crumbling, retreating under the unrelenting advance of Eggman's empire. From the roof of a shattered skyscraper, Midoriya watched the chaos with clenched fists, his green eyes reflecting the destruction below. Civilians ran for their lives, pro-heroes struggled to maintain order, and even seasoned heroes like Endeavor and Hawks were forced to pull back, regrouping instead of charging forward. The air was thick with smoke, tension, and a dread so heavy it pressed down on everyone who dared to breathe it in. "We can't just sit here," Midoriya shouted, his voice cutting through the cacophony. "We have to fight back. We have to find a way to stop him." Kirishima, panting from his last encounter with a wave of Eggman's shock drones, shook his head. "Deku, we've tried everything. His machines, they're too strong. Every quirk we throw at them, they adapt. They improve." Midoriya clenched his teeth, the weight of despair pressing against his chest. Cities were falling faster than they could respond. Heroes were exhausted, wounded, and broken. Yet even in the face of such devastation, a spark of determination burned in his heart. He crouched down, scanning the battlefield. Amid the ruins, he noticed a pattern. Eggman's machines moved with precision, but there was an underlying rhythm to their strategy. Every advance, every defensive maneuver was predictable if one could read the sequence. Midoriya's mind raced, analyzing every scrap of movement, every attack he'd witnessed over the past days. "He's brilliant, but he's not infallible," Midoriya muttered to himself. "Every machine, every system, it relies on him at the core. He can predict quirks, yes, but there's always a point of vulnerability." Nearby, Bakugo's explosions lit the darkened sky, a desperate attempt to hold back a wave of robotic soldiers. His shouts of frustration carried across the battlefield. Damn it! Every time we hit one, another two take its place. What the hell is he planning? Midoriya nodded grimly. He's overextending. He's spreading himself too thin. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. Eggman's brilliance was also his weakness. Every machine, every base, every metal All Might he unleashed was connected, controlled, and centralized. One strike at the right point could unravel the entire operation. Everyone, Midoriya called out through the comms, rallying the remaining heroes. Listen to me. We're not out of options. Eggman has a weakness. One central control point. If we can reach it, we can shut down his machines. Hawks flew overhead, eyes narrowing. You mean the main fortress? That's suicide, Midoriya. It's the only chance we have, Midoriya responded, determination sharpening his voice. We can't let him keep spreading his empire. Hero society depends on this. In the midst of the chaos, a lone egg carrier hovered ominously above the city, its massive form casting a shadow over everything. Robots poured out from it like ants, each one faster and smarter than the last. Metal All Might patrolled the streets below, systematically neutralizing every threat, his golden armor glinting in the smoke-choked sunlight. The sight would have crushed the spirit of anyone else, but not Midoriya. He felt a surge of resolve. Every setback, every failure, every loss had led him here. He knew the risk, knew the cost, but for the first time, he also saw the path to victory. Eggman's genius had limits, and if Midoriya could exploit them, even a world dominated by machines could be toppled. Midoriya's heart beat faster as he looked at his friends, Bakugo, Uraraka, Todoroki, and even the pro-heroes regrouping at the edges of the battlefield. We can still win, but we have to move now. A shadow shifted atop the egg carrier, Eggman's figure appearing in a massive observation window, his grin wide and confident. Ah, I see the little heroes are planning a last stand, Eggman's voice boomed, mechanical yet mocking. How quaint. You cannot stop progress. You cannot stop me. Midoriya's eyes hardened, the fire of determination reflecting in the depths of despair around him. We won't stop at words. We'll stop you, Eggman. No matter what it takes. As the heroes gathered their strength, a sudden tremor shook the city. The egg carrier began to shift, preparing another terrifying transformation. The machine surged forward, relentless, unstoppable. Yet Midoriya's mind had already locked onto a single truth. The heart of Eggman's empire, the key to undoing the chaos, was within reach. And for the first time since the invasion began, hope flared across the battlefield. A fragile, dangerous hope. The collapse of Hero Society had begun, but in the shadow of destruction, the spark of resistance was ready to ignite. Midoriya clenched his fists, ready to make his move. Eggman may have conquered cities, but he had underestimated one thing: the unyielding spirit of a hero who refused to surrender. And with that, the final strategy was about to unfold. The fortress loomed like a mechanical mountain, its steel spires cutting through the smoke-choked sky. Eggman's emblem glinted atop the central tower, a symbol of domination that had spread fear across every city. Below, the remnants of Hero Society surged forward, a tidal wave of determination crashing against the metal walls of the Empire. Dust and sparks filled the air, the clamor of pro-heroes, students, and machines colliding into a symphony of chaos. Midoriya led the charge, his boots pounding against the reinforced floors, green energy crackling along his limbs. Beside him, Bakugo propelled himself forward, with explosions that lit the dark corridors like bursts of fire, each one cutting a path through Eggman's robotic soldiers. Todoroki's flames and ice coiled in perfect harmony, freezing the advancing machines while simultaneously melting others into molten scrap. The heroes had never fought together like this before, every quirk combining in a desperate, synchronized effort to breach the fortress. "Keep moving," Midoriya shouted, scanning the corridor ahead. "We're almost at the core. If we can reach it, we can end this." But Eggman had prepared for them. Around every corner, traps and mechanized sentries lay in wait, anticipating each quirk, each movement. Every step forward felt like pushing through a gauntlet designed to crush hope. Sparks rained from broken wires, hydraulic pistons hissed like beasts, and the air vibrated with the hum of processing cores that controlled an endless army. Then, as they rounded the final corridor, Midoriya froze. There, standing at the heart of the fortress, was the ultimate nightmare. Metal All Might. The golden armor shimmered under the fortress lights, every detail eerily identical to the symbol of peace himself, yet utterly devoid of humanity. Its eyes glowed with an unfeeling intelligence, and in its presence, every hero felt a chill that pierced deeper than any cold. "Midoriya," Bakugo growled. "This thing, it's All Might. But it's not him. Metal." All Might raised a fist, and in a single, fluid motion, sent Todoroki sliding across the floor, his ice and fire extinguished by a perfectly calculated counter. Uraraka was lifted and flung against the wall, her gravity manipulation useless against the machine's programming. Even seasoned heroes like Endeavor found themselves outmaneuvered, struck down with precision that no human could hope to match. Midoriya clenched his fists, his heart pounding. He had faced impossible odds before, but nothing like this. He's using All Might's strength, but he's not limited. He's learning from us. Eggman's voice echoed through the fortress, broadcast across every chamber. "Ah, young Midoriya, you see my creation. Metal All Might is the culmination of my genius, and you will witness the final phase, one that even heroes cannot withstand." The words cut deep. Midoriya's stomach churned as he realized the full extent of Eggman's plan. "Final phase," he muttered. "Yes," Eggman continued, his laughter booming. "My machines can replicate quirks infinitely. Every ability you wield, every strategy you attempt, will be studied, copied, and improved upon. You cannot win. You cannot adapt faster than perfection itself." A cold silence fell across the battlefield as the truth sank in. The Eggman Empire was no longer a machine army. It was a self-evolving system, learning from every attack, every mistake, every hero. With Metal All Might leading the assault, no corner of the fortress was safe. Midoriya's mind raced. If he can replicate quirks, we can't fight him like we fight each other. We need a plan, a way to break the system itself. Bakugo roared beside him, detonating a series of blasts that barely slowed the advance. "Then we destroy him. I don't care how. This machine doesn't get to beat us." As heroes rallied around them, Midoriya formulated a desperate strategy. The central core, Eggman's control hub, must be reached. Every robot, every trap, every Metal All Might in the field was connected to that one point. If they could strike it, perhaps they could turn the tide. The fortress trembled, mechanical arms reaching toward the heroes, lasers cutting swaths through the walls. Metal All Might charged, his fists colliding with Bakugo's explosions, sending shockwaves that rattled every bone. Midoriya leaped, pushing past the chaos, green energy blazing, eyes locked on the core in the distance. Eggman's laughter filled the hall again, a sinister melody over the cacophony of battle. You think you can challenge me? My empire is infinite. My machines are eternal. Your quirks are mine to use. Midoriya's heart steeled, determination coiling like a spring. We'll see about that, he muttered, ready to test the limits of heroism against the perfect machine. And in that moment, the fortress seemed to close in, a labyrinth of steel and fire, every path leading to confrontation, every heartbeat pulsing with tension. The final battle had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The heroes surged forward, courage against cold calculation, heart against machine. And at the center of it all, Midoriya prepared to face the ultimate adversary, the metal hero, the embodiment of everything he had once admired, now twisted into a weapon of unyielding terror. The fate of hero society and the world itself hung in the balance. The heart of the fortress pulsed with energy. A massive core reactor humming with power that radiated through every metal wall and corridor. Sparks danced along conduits as molten circuits carried the lifeblood of Eggman's empire. The battle outside was deafening, heroes clashing with endless waves of machines. But here, in the innermost sanctum, it was quiet, tense, and electric. Midoriya stepped forward, sweat dripping, lungs burning, his eyes fixed on the figure at the center. Doctor Eggman, smug, calculating, hands resting on a console that controlled everything. You made it, Eggman said, his voice echoing off the metallic walls. I was beginning to think you'd crumble under the weight of your own ideals, boy. But here you are, ready to fail spectacularly. Midoriya's fists clenched, green energy coiling along his arms. I'm not here to fail. I'm here to stop you. All of this ends today. Eggman chuckled, a low mechanical sound that grated against the air. Ends, my dear Midoriya. This is only the beginning. Heroes are relics of sentimentality. Order comes from control, from power perfected. Your quirk, your so-called heroism, it's just data for me to replicate. The young hero's eyes narrowed. Power without purpose is meaningless. A machine can't understand sacrifice, courage, or hope. You can copy quirks, but you can't copy a heart. Eggman's eyes gleamed with a mixture of amusement and irritation. Ah, so we have philosophy now? Very well, let's test it. With a flick of his wrist, the core reactor surged, sending waves of energy cascading through the fortress. The floor trembled beneath Midoriya's boots, and the lights flickered as automated defenses sprang to life. Metal All Might units surrounded the room, their glowing eyes scanning for weaknesses. But Midoriya didn't flinch. He had studied every pattern, anticipated every move, and now it was time to act. I won't let you keep doing this, Midoriya shouted, launching forward. His speed, honed through endless battles and countless near-death moments, allowed him to dodge crushing mechanical fists and swinging energy beams. Each step was calculated, each movement precise, as he weaved through a gauntlet of perfection designed to kill him. Eggman leaned back, watching with a cold fascination. Impressive, but futile. He activated the core fully, and the room filled with a blinding light. Energy arced along conduits, threatening to tear the fortress apart. Midoriya felt the heat, the pressure, the almost unbearable weight of power, but within that chaos, he saw it, a flaw. The reactor's core pulse had a rhythm, A microsecond delay. A tiny vulnerability that no machine could hide if you knew where to look. This is it, Midoriya muttered, determination hardening into resolve. I have to trust in what I am, and what heroes stand for. He leaped high, Quirk blazing with controlled power, eyes locked on the reactor. Every ounce of strength, every burst of one for all, focused into a single, precise strike. The metal walls quivered as he landed, the force shattering layers of defense, and for the first time, Eggman's control wavered. How? Eggman sputtered, panic creeping into his voice. No! This shouldn't be possible! Midoriya's fists glowed brighter, veins of green energy tracing every muscle. Because heroism isn't about perfection. It's about persistence, about never giving up, about protecting others even when it seems impossible. With a final, explosive push, he slammed into the core, shattering it in a cascade of molten metal and electric fire. Sparks and energy erupted in every direction, blinding the fortress and sending alarms wailing across the facility. Metal all-might units convulsed, sparks flying from their joints before collapsing in heaps of inert machinery. Eggman staggered, thrown back by the shockwave, his empire faltering for the first time. Impossible! You can't destroy perfection. Midoriya stood, chest heaving, green energy fading, but his gaze unyielding. It's not perfection that saves people. It's courage, heart, hope, something you'll never understand. The fortress groaned, metal buckling as energy systems crashed and security lockdowns failed. Outside, heroes surged forward, sensing the shift, their morale lifting with the unmistakable pulse of victory. Eggman's laughter faltered, replaced by a hiss of frustration as his plans unraveled around him. Midoriya took a step forward, ready to confront the villain once more, knowing that the battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. In that moment, a new truth resonated through the ruins of the fortress. No machine, no matter how brilliant or powerful, could replicate the essence of a hero. And for the first time, Dr. Eggman realized that controlling quirks meant nothing if the human spirit refused to be controlled. The room fell into an uneasy silence, broken only by the distant shouts of the heroes regrouping. Midoriya's gaze met Eggman's across the crumbling battlefield, and in that instant, the ultimate clash of genius and heart had reached its pivotal crescendo. The world held its breath. The city breathed again. Skyscrapers, once riddled with holes, now gleamed under the afternoon sun, their glass reflecting a world that had survived the unthinkable. Smoke still curled from the outskirts where battles had raged, but the streets were alive with cautious laughter, the rhythmic hum of reconstruction, and the determined footsteps of those who refused to let fear define them. Heroes moved among civilians, not as saviors on pedestals, but as partners in rebuilding a world they had fought so desperately to protect. Midoriya walked through a partially restored street, his green eyes tracing the scars of yesterday. The craters, the collapsed buildings, the remnants of Eggman's mechanized tyranny. He had seen cities crumble beneath machines that should not have existed, watched comrades fall to robotic versions of themselves, and stared into the abyss of a world without heroes. Now there was movement again, a pulse of life that made his chest tighten. Every act of reconstruction, every child returning to school, every shop reopening. It was proof that the world could heal, that hope, fragile as it was, could endure. Yet even amidst the celebration, a shadow lingered in his mind. He stopped before a building half rebuilt, crouching to watch a team of young students carrying supplies. faces smudged with dirt, but eyes shining. We were this close, he whispered to himself, the weight of it pressing down like a tangible force. Too close to losing everything. His gloved hands clenched, trembling slightly, not with exhaustion, but with the memory of how easily the scales had tipped. He thought of Metal All Might, of Eggman's ultimate weapon, and of how the villain had nearly replicated the quirks of every hero in existence. The air shifted suddenly, faint and imperceptible, but enough for Midoriya to pause. Far beyond the rebuilt streets, in a desert no map seemed to mark, a solitary structure, battered and smoking, twitched with mechanical life. Among broken panels and sparking circuits, a damaged Eggman robot stirred. Its eye flickered, red, cold, and calculating. The robot's body, scarred from the final battle, hummed with energy as circuits strained, and a faint signal pulsed outward, invisible to the human eye, but potent enough to resonate across dimensions. Back in the city, Midoriya felt it, not as a physical disturbance, but as a ripple in the air of possibility. He didn't yet know what it was, yet a deep instinctual chill ran down his spine. Something had survived. Something had learned. He clenched his fists, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Even in victory, the world was not entirely safe. Even heroes must remain vigilant. The damaged robot's eye focused on a distant point in the multiverse, coordinates unknown to anyone but itself. It sent a signal, a pulse of information and intent, whispering through realities. New world detected. Its mechanical voice, faint yet precise, cut through the silence of the barren wasteland. The pulse raced, echoing across dimensions, alerting forces beyond the comprehension of the heroes, who now walked freely, thinking the nightmare was over. Somewhere, in another world, gears turned, sensors calibrated, and the cycle threatened to begin again. Midoriya looked up at the sky, the orange of sunset reflecting off the clouds, and he felt the fragile beauty of what they had preserved. His eyes narrowed, determination sharpening like a blade. "We survived once," he said softly, almost to himself. "We'll survive again, whatever comes." Around him, the citizens laughed, rebuilt, and lived. But he alone could sense the threads of future threats stretching unseen. And then, as if in answer to that unspoken warning, the camera of the narrative pulls away, soaring above the city, over mountains, across oceans, into the vast unknown where the damaged robot continued its silent work. Sparks flew, panels shifted, and a low hum grew into something menacingly alive. The signal continued, scanning for life, for heroes, for worlds unprepared. New world detected. The words echoed, mechanical and deliberate, across the void between universes, carrying the promise, or threat, of Eggman's return. Below, the world continued to heal, unaware. Above, the horizon glowed with hope. Far away, beyond sight and comprehension, a machine stirred once more. And in that quiet tension, the audience knows. The story isn't over. It has only shifted to a new battlefield, a new stage. Fade to black. The world had won for now, but the signal whispered through the cosmos. Somewhere else, another Eggman waits. Another challenge looms. Another story is about to unfold. The future was uncertain, and that uncertainty was enough to make every heartbeat, every act of heroism, matter all the more.